deemed the celebrity whisperer by Playboy.
This is the best interview of the day.
Thanks for having me.
You hit the nail on the head.
100%.
Period, yeah.
Touch them. They're cracking me up.
Wear them, baby. She's good.
Taylor Ferber.
If there is one single thing that you can't dispute, that would be the power of a good old BJ. But we are in 2004, people. Everybody has something to say about everything. And so even on that topic and subject, I'd say no such luck, bitch. Try again. In case you missed it, good old Katy Perry, who one time backstage at American Idol, told me her Taco Bell order in all of her quirky Katy Perry ways. I will tell you that story offline in my exclusive Patreon OnlyFans subreddit that you never saw coming, okay? But until then, Katy Perry made waves over the weekend, as she does. This girl just can't catch a break. Like, maybe it is like the flop female anthem of the summer, or maybe it's this seemingly innocent comment in which she was on a podcast and was joking about how her love language, she doesn't need a Lambo. She doesn't need fancy things. She can buy that shit herself. What she really wants is just a guy, in this case, Orlando Bloom, who's been her longtime partner, in all of his elf ear Lord of the Rings glory, is for a guy to just show up and do basic things around the house, acts of service. I feel seen. I too am an acts of service girl. And she says on this show that if my guy so much as unloads the dishwasher and closes the cabinets, like, forget the dishes, dancing their way, like, she is not rich enough to cast a spell like Beauty and the Beast in the last episode where these dishes can just dance their asses back to the cabinet. So until then, a partner like this, in this case Orlando Bloom, to close the cabinets, that's all it takes to seal the deal for Katy Perry.
You better be ready to get your dick sucked. I mean, like, literally, that is my love language. I don't need a red Ferrari. I can buy a red Ferrari. Just do the fucking dishes.
I'm obsessed.
I will suck your dick.
That is her love language, doing the dishes, putting everything away nice, tidying it up, closing the cabinet doors. It's all sparkling clean. And that shit warrants, as she says, you are getting your dick sucked. You are getting a blowjob. Now, people at first were like, thank you, Carrie. Like, Carrie? Thank you, Carrie, to Katy Perry's twin sister, Siamese twin. No, thank you, Katy Perry, for being so relatable. Yes, exactly. Like, dudes, just show up, do this little bit for us, and we will make you happy. Like, scratch my back, I suck your dick. You know what I mean? Like, that kind of thing. Like, yes, Katy, thank you for keeping it real with this, getting guys to do stuff around the house. But then, the Mount Etna of anti-blowjobs of TikTok exploded because people were coming out in criticism saying that basically Katy Perry is this big fat sellout and selling out women. And being like, why do you gotta throw women under the bus? Like, really? Like, for men to, like, put the dishes away and close the cabinet as if it's some, like, reward-winning thing and that's what warrants a blowjob? Like, this is literally the bare minimum from men. They should be doing this shit anyway. Why are you rewarding this behavior? To which I say, and I actually talked about this with a guy who's a super, like, alpha male, but loves women, like, more than of a feminist than I am, arguably, like, great guy, right? And it's so funny because seeing his reaction in real time, when I told him how first women were praising her, he's like, exactly, yes, like, that's what I'm talking about. But then when I told him how people were like, this is, like, literally the bare minimum. Why are we giving them a participation trophy, right? In the form of, sucking your dick, a blowjob. He's like, wait, yeah, I get, okay, I could see that too, right? And even in this thing, it's like either Katy Perry is the most, relatable Nancy over here, or she's this, misogynist, man-indulgent, sellout. Neither are necessarily true. And you can say that women and men, it's not like men would all react a certain way to this or women would all react a certain way to this. Clearly, women and men themselves, from different walks of lives, viewpoints, what have you, could have different takes on this and different reactions, right? And so it's not so definitive. The reason, like, what is the reason? Ask Cardi B, the poet of our time, the poet of our stripper poles. Like, what is the reason? There may not be a definitive rhyme, reason, what have you, to the art of the blowjob, right? It's not so definitive. It's not so black and white. Both things can be true. And so let's take that concept and go a little deeper, shall we? And not in a sex way. Okay, what does this look like? Jerry Springer, we have class around here, okay? But may you rest in peace, Jerry, who also, people know this, he was the mayor. He was a mayor of a big city. So yeah, marketing genius, bamboozled all your asses, and is laughing his way to the bank still in, ratchet reality TV heaven. So on a deeper level with this concept, though, is Beyonce's Cowboy Carter and the snubby dub the biggest snub, arguably, this side of the century, okay, from the CMAs. So what happened was the CMAs, which is a very, esteemed, prestigious in the country community, the Country Music Association, the awards, the people who vote, the people who are members, all this, right? Very respected here in Music City and in the country music community. So they just came out today with their nominations for this year's CMAs, and nowhere to be found. Like, I'm not even talking like visual effects on the end credit shit. Nobody even, like, nowhere is Beyonce's Cowboy Carter. And a girl can't help but ask, what is going on here? Now, first, take a pause, take a beat, and let me just tell you a little of my personal tango relationship with the idea of enforcing diversity and quotas and all this, especially in what have you, but no biz like showbiz. In case you missed it, I have been super vocal about this topic, so much so that Fox News dragged my ass out of the sewer that was the pandemic to have me come on the national network and talk about this as it pertains to the Oscars. Remember when the Oscars did their whole diversity quota and it was so fucking wild? It was literally like, okay, in every movie, you need somebody with pink-colored hair, with only 3 fingers, with a missing tooth, with 1 nostril. Like, it literally was insane.
Well, Oscars so white controversy, and I think that they are trying to please everyone, but how many rules can you put in place?
And my point then and now was that, yes, while there are disparities, the sky is blue, the grass is green, and that shit is real. However, I hate this forced like, first of all, don't tell me what to do, period, okay? Like, you're leading me in a meditation class, you're telling me to breathe deeply, but, like, do I really want to, bitch? Like, don't fucking tell me what to do, right? But I feel like the whole forced nature of it just makes people resent it. It makes people more skeptical, and I would argue that it just kills art, right? It just kills art. Like, Van Gogh and his one ear, who would most certainly make and check that box of the disabled quota, would be rolling in his grave. Like, don't tell me how, you know what I mean? How constricting to be like, you have to have this, and there you go. It's art. Like, what the fuck is this? A CCP propaganda piece on TikTok? Like, give me a break. So I just can't get with that entire thing, right? That being said, now that you know how I feel about that, you have to stop and think that this just doesn't add up. So Cowboy Carter, listen, I'm not even the biggest Beyonce fan. I won't dispute, and that's like how much my brain cells are popping to be like, I'm no Inspector Gadget, but like, what the hell is going on here, right? I'm by no means the biggest Beyonce fan. I personally think, and this is really neither here nor there, but I think that there are some, like, I think it's not all there. Like, there's some loose wiring going on in there. Not even loose, but just, like, vacant, if you will. Like, it's sort of, like, dead behind the eyes. Like, is anybody home? except for maybe like, a Willie Nelson appearance, which we're going to talk about. But that being said, you can't deny, I will not deny that Beyonce is a once in a lifetime artist and talent. She's so fucking talented. And what she did with Cowboy Carter and really entering the music scene of country specifically, it just was on full display how gifted and inventive and talented she is. And she would bring in flares of her, R&B and all kinds of, and let's not forget, like, this bitch is from Houston. She goes around with hot sauce in her bag swag, like, how could we forget? So that's why I would, even from when the album hit the scene and people were giving her shit, no matter how dead she is behind the eyes, I still had her back being like, first of all, she's an artist. You don't have to box it or cap it. She can do what she wants. And she's from Texas, bitch. Like, she mentions Houston every other word. So I think she has the cred to be able to do this. But secondly, when you speak about street cred, okay, this bitch managed, like, who does this on this album? She managed to collaborate with a handful of Black artists like Shabuzi, who's huge right now, who oddly enough was nominated for 2 awards. So, okay. Willie Jones, who is an up-and-coming, seriously talented Black artist who I actually interviewed, which I'm going to tell you about, at last year's pre-CMAs event at Blake Shelton, that Blake Shelton threw at his venue. And, okay, moreover, and arguably more importantly, Linda Martell, she's in her 80s now, was the first Black woman in country to ever really go mainstream and the first Black woman in country to perform at the Opry. And further, here are some, if you guys want to do the black and white thing, let's do it, okay? Like, fuck it, we've come this far. So we're going for it. So now if you look at iconic white country artists, she managed to get Willie Nelson for 2 interludes, Smoke Hour and Smoke Hour 2. Post Malone, who obviously is new in country, but is huge, right? And Dolly Parton, who is basically the face and the tits of country music. And not only did Beyonce collaborate with Dolly for this album, she covers Dolly's most famous song, Jolene, and even basically gets permission from Dolly Parton to change the lyrics. Again, who actually does this? So all of this goes to say that alone should warrant at least 1 nomination. There's nothing as far as the eye can see. Okay? No Stephen Hawking telescope is going to figure this shit out. And so how is that possible? Now, this is the next topic I'm going to get to. I am fully self-aware that many of you maybe could be listening to this and going, Taylor, don't be so naive now. Don't be so naive. Obviously, this is just because everybody is racist. Country music is racist. The country music community is racist. The Country Music Association is racist. They're all a bunch of racists, right? I'm aware someone, like I said, could think that. And I'm not saying they're not. I'm just saying it's worth exploring and looking into. It's worth really stopping and going, wait, this doesn't add up. Now, again, I'm not saying that Beyonce is just clean sweep. I'm not even saying she should win on the basis of her being a woman or being Black or this or that or the other thing, but even not a nomination. So I'm really thinking about, okay, and I've mixed and mingled and, rubbed shoulders, but rubbed not other things though, like Katy Perry style with people in CMA. Hell, I even hosted a panel with a big artist at CMA at the headquarters here. And so I'm wondering, is it just the pool of people voting? Are they really racist? Is it that they just go with what's familiar, like a white guy in a beard who's a little chubby with a trucker hat? Is it that they're just tribal? Again, they just go with what's familiar? Or is it that they are all just racist, right? So again, I don't think that this is so black and white, no pun intended, but it's definitely enough to make a blonde bitch stop in the middle of the road, stop in her tracks and go, what is going on here? And so the last CMAs, the event that I was telling you about, I thought it was so interesting reflecting on this now because Willie Jones is one of the artists who, to my surprise, I interviewed him, I don't know, like a couple weeks, a month or two before his surprise appearance on Beyonce's, however you want to spit it, this shit was actually, I think, history-making album, right? And I was like, the sneaky little Willie, like, he kept this, wet Willie in his secrets and didn't tell anyone, including me, who just interviewed him, shortly before the release. But I interviewed him as he was going on to, perform on stage at Blake Shelton's place for the CMAs. And I asked him this very thing, how does it feel to be a Black man holding it down in country music? It's notably and arguably like an old white man's game and all this. And I loved his answer. It was so beautiful. As he, by the way, is like doing an outfit change and like stripping down backstage with me. Like, what a time to be alive.
It must feel good being a Black man in country music holding it down, because as we know, it's like the old white man's game, right?
Man, it just feels good being a Black man, period. And country music was created, by Black folk. All music, really, but country music has its roots in Black music, and all American music does. So to be a part of, just opening people's ears and minds up to different vibes, I am just so blessed and honored. And it's so great to see so many other Black country artists or country artists who happen to be Black out here stepping in ways that's cool and just opening up new vibes.
Who happen to be Black. He just shed like a caterpillar to the butterfly.
Period.
Period.
But he basically said, like, A, it just feels good to be a Black man, period. And B, it just feels good to share my art with the world. Again, like, does he think country music and the people in it are racist? Maybe. But he had such a positive spin of like, it's good to be me. Like, I'm doing what I love. And if other people don't see that, fuck them. Like, I'm putting my art out there. I'm rising to the top and like, life is good. Similarly, that very night, I also interviewed Radio Rodney, who, is actually another Black man and is the host of the CMA. Not the CMAs, like award show. That's another one where they enlist someone like off of the back of their pickup truck, like a Luke Bryan, what have you. But he's the host of the CMAs and interviewing a reporter for CMA, if you will, and interviewing these stars all the time. And so I asked him kind of the same thing, how it feels, because we're hearing all the time now that country music is becoming cool again, like Elvis Presley resurrecting off the toilet. It's like, who knew? Like, here it is.
Country's the old white man's game.
Yes.
And what you're saying now, like the lane's been like blown open, so to speak.
Yep.
But with that being said, like you're a Black dude in country music. Do you ever feel like a fish out of water or out of place?
I do, but in a good way. It's a good way. Because when you're able to get respect and earn the respect from something that others might think is like, you don't belong here, but when you gain that respect, it kind of helps your confidence. It kind of boosts your confidence. It boosts your platform. It helps you kind of exceed heights. So starting off in a place where people are like, you don't belong here, makes me want to work harder. And when I do show people why I belong here, it gains more and more respect and traction. So I think it's a fun thing to be a part of, as long as you don't. Yeah, as long as you don't like ruin it for yourself. Like, don't push it on people. I don't force being Black and country on people. I just do what I do, and you see like the approach is like, this guy is holding confidence,
But he even said kind of a similar thing of, it's much more of a melting pot than people think. And, people are coming here from all walks of life, and there's so much opportunity, and it's really dynamic, and it is diverse. And, maybe it's not like where we need to be, but it certainly is like moving and shaking. And so how interesting with both of these people, both tied to literally either Beyonce's album, namely being on it, right? And or the CMAs. In Rodney's case, neither of them really pulled this, jumping to conclusions, of everybody is just racist, everybody in this town is racist, everybody in this, oddly enough, like a Maren Morris would, right? So I think that's something that's really interesting and worth looking at, is how they both had this kind of like nuanced, contemplative and constructive response for people who are so, far and deep in it, in also prominent ways, which is contrary. This whole thing reminded me of how could we forget when Jay-Z gave his speech at the Grammys for winning the Global Impact Award. And did the opposite, basically, where he essentially called out the Recording Academy for not awarding his wife, Beyonce, for not giving her an award. I think it was Album of the Year or something for Renaissance. even though despite the fact that she is the winningest Grammy artist of all time.
I don't want to embarrass this young lady, but she has more Grammys than everyone and never won Album of the Year. So even by your own metrics, that doesn't work. Think about that. The most Grammys, never won Album of the Year. That doesn't work.
And so that at the time I remember calling out, as did many, being like, dude, seriously? Like, she's the winningest Grammy artist of all time. You're up here on stage winning a Global Impact Award. And you're going to like make a stinking cry about this right here and now. Like, there's a time and a place. This ain't it. Pack up your toys and your awards and go home. Like, stop it. On the contrary, though, is what is unfolding right now with a huge NFL player for the Miami Dolphins, right? So all this goes to say, I can appreciate when something isn't blanket statements, you know, again, like jumping to conclusions harder than Discovery Zone ball pit circa 1998, you know. I'm talking about just wondering and going, what can we uncover here? Wait, what's really going on? Wait, maybe it's a little bit of this. Maybe it's a little bit of this. Maybe both things are true, you know? But I got to tell you, we love to jump into these conclusions, you know, like a 6'5" athlete who was a male 2 years ago, balls deep going into the ring of an Olympic competition, you know, in the women's round. So the next story is with Tyreek Hill, who over the weekend on Sunday, he's one of the most notable wide receivers in the NFL right now. And merely a block from the stadium, he was pulled over for reckless driving in his black Lambo, by the way, okay? And it's a little bit unclear of exactly what happened and what unfolded, but from what we know, something obviously went down, right? Apparently, bystanders were saying he was put in handcuffs, that there was maybe some verbal altercations, and we don't really know because the rest is unfolding. But what's so fascinating to me is how his reaction just after the game, because he went and played. And he was asked about it in the press conference. And he kind of says, I don't know, like kind of insinuating, like, is it because I'm a black guy? But maybe it's not. Like, he's not writing it off, but he's not totally attributing it to that either. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't that. But obviously, like, it's something's up, because this was, like, you know, disproportionate. But what the twist is that this man, Sky, who's driving a black Lambo, who's probably taking showers in his dollar bills, he could go golfing. He could, like, prove his swing next to Trump. You know, he could go next to Tom Brady and be a sportscaster on Fox and stare into his eyes like the rest of us want to. Like, there's so many million things he could do, but instead he's like, I respect cops so much. In fact, like, I have a sheriff's, like, I have a PD hat at home, and I hope to be one day. And what he says is, I have a platform, and what they do to protect us is so important. So ideally, let's work together to make this a win-win for all of us. Let's use my platform that has influence and reach, and obviously what they do that has significance and importance to protect us, to make this better all around. And I thought, how refreshing, right? How thoughtful and how constructive and again, just like Beyonce with the country music situation, just like the Oscars, not to say that there isn't, you know, disparity there and that doesn't happen, but to not eagerly, again, box it in that and label it as that, I think is really rare. It reminds me a little bit, actually, of the Morgan Wallen situation. Like, this guy, he'll never live it down, but he's actually, like, kind of thriving, but I feel like he will always live with the shadow, you know, like a Dementor at Hogwarts, of that night when he was having fun fooling around with his friend, like maybe a little drunk, like wild child, and I think it was in Nashville, and is caught on camera using the N-word. And he, at the time, and again, who knows about any of this, how much of it was a PR stunt, how much is real? Is he racist? Is he not? You know, was he joking around with his friends? People also down here in the South tell me, like, that's how people talk to each other, black and white. Regardless, right? Neither here or there. I personally don't think he's a racist, but even how he came out after and was like, look, like I can take this and internalize it and learn better and move forward. And again, like, was this like the script writing of our time, like from his PR? Maybe. But again, it's that idea of, you know, let's see what's really going on. Let me look at myself. Let me like, you know, check up on it like Beyonce would suggest and see what's really going on. So all this goes to say, again, maybe people are listening to me in this and be like, Taylor, you and your blonde ways, like, girl, obviously, like, case in point racism, case in point racism, case in point racism. But I would urge you to stop and really think, you know, pull a Harriet the Spy, like, why not, you know, get that wretched yellow coat on and really dig into it and look at it and go, you know, what is going on here? You know, because I definitely think, you know, there's a little slim shadiness, right? But not all cops are racist. The entire country music community can't be racist. I don't even think Morgan Wallen, like I said, is a racist. You know, just like one could argue that Katy Perry isn't some self-hating, misogynistic, men-indulgent loser sellout. So all that to say, guys, we're all very complex. You know, there are very few things that are super definitive and that, you know, you just can't argue. And to bring it all back to where we started, one of those things would be something that is so bulletproof is that, you know, speaking of Katy Perry, men love blowjobs so much, they pretty much are willing to do just about anything for them, okay? And that, my friends, is something that you actually can't argue. It's a science. Just ask Fauci.